and then I record my audio separate. So if you're ready, I'm going to hit record in 3, 2, 1. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sandy K Nutrition, Health and Lifestyle Queen. Today with me, I have a special guest. Her name is Julia Cannon. And Julia is a former registered nurse for over 20 years, and she is the author of Soul Speak, The Language of Your Body. She has trained with her mother, the late Dolores Cannon, in reconnective healing and quantum healing hypnosis. Julia provides insight into energy healing and something she calls light casting. Today, we are going to discuss steps in which you can take your own healing into your own hands by listening and paying attention to your body's own signals. And with that, welcome, Julia. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I mean, Julia and I had a couple of minutes just to chat before this, and I'm fascinated with her work. Obviously, I'm fascinated with her mother's work, but Julia's really paving her own way with her own work. And I want to stress that because I read her book and I was truly just fascinated with it. And so I want to start off by asking you your background, your story, how you got into this from a very medical perspective to
Right.
what you're doing now.
Very medical. I mean, all my life I wanted to be a nurse. Ever since I was like 2 years old, I knew I was going to be a nurse. So I was doing that and I fulfilled, 20 years, intensive care, home health care. I even was running a home health agency. I was just, going as far as you could go as a registered nurse. And then the universe was like, done, you need to go over here. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. And so that's one part of the story. We'll look at a parallel line that was also going on was the way I was raised. I was raised by my mother and my father, Johnny and Dolores Cannon, military family, well-rounded because we were moving all over the world. We were very open-minded, and my mother was always into, we didn't have a word for it back then, but metaphysics.
Yep.
We're talking way back there. Okay.
Yeah.
Give my age away, but way back there. Um, and so we were raised to be very open-minded. And my father got into hypnosis when we were stationed in the Philippines. And so that's how my mother got introduced into that. So this is all going on the side over here. And then, as I'm going into nursing school, my mother is empty nester now, and she's choosing to carry on with the hypnosis. So she's doing that and then relating to me all these things that are happening. So you kind of have to look at that. So when the universe starts tapping me on the shoulder and saying it's time to leave this medical industry, you're done there. You need to go. It kept saying a healing center. Whatever that meant to me. I mean, this was all different for me. This is a new world and everything. I was introduced. I was seeing my mother's work going on, and I was helping in there every once in a while. And I was actually, and this is something I have noticed later, was I was actually manifesting back then, because sometimes I would fill in when she was on trips. I would answer the phones for her and for the company. And I would love talking to these people about all these wonderful, beautiful metaphysical concepts. And it was like, oh, it's so nice to talk to people like that rather than sick people that are whining about stuff, And it was like, I would like to do that all the time. Then see, so then, a little later, the universe is going, you need to go over here now. I'm like, but what is that? I don't know what that is. And I fought it. I resisted it. And they had to push me. I didn't go willingly because I didn't understand. So if anybody's getting that tap on the shoulder, and it happened, my book explains how it happened, but it was like, I kept getting these messages, and I was hearing things. And that was really before I was fully understanding even what that was, that I'm getting messages, I'm understanding these things. So, but I was getting the cues that something had to change. I didn't like the idea of change. I was very comfortable. And so I drug my feet. I waited and waited. And then the universe came in and provided. And what I like to say is don't wait for the universe to do it. If you're hearing messages, just do it. Heed the messages. Don't wait for the universe, because it's not pretty when they come in. And because I was just like, they kept going, you need to do, finally they were saying, you need to do a healing center in Arkansas. And I lived in Missouri at the time. And I'm like, why? How? That doesn't make sense to me. I'm very comfortable in my nursing career. I don't understand this. I don't know what you're wanting. I don't understand. And why would I do that? That's what I kept saying. Why? Finally, the last time I heard it, I said, how? How on earth am I going to do a healing center in Arkansas when I'm in Missouri? And it was as if they said, well, we will show you how. My world as I knew it ceased to exist. I mean, everything was wiped away. I was plucked from that world and put into the world of Dolores Cannon in Arkansas. It was like, oh my gosh. And I was frailing. I mean, I was kicking, screaming, everything, as you would, because it's like, I'm out of control. Everything's lost. So if something happens and you lose everything, there's a reason. I see it now. It's totally crystal clear now. But at that time, it was me not listening and me saying the magic word of how, I guess. And it was like, okay, we've got to get you from here to here. I know so much more now about how we are guiding our lives. We and our higher selves, our guidance team, we all come in with a plan. And I think that was just trying to indicate your plan is to go over here now. And I wasn't listening. We have points that we have to be at. We have a plan, we have a blueprint. And if we're not there, then something's going to happen to get us there, because that is what we designed before we came in. So see, this was very much my design, but I didn't realize it on this conscious level. I'm just like, what are you doing to me?
Yeah.
And tend to do that, be the victim. And oh my gosh,
Yes.
what's happening? It's us. We're the ones doing it.
But,
So anyway, got
I
moved.
I do feel though, because I really resonate with your story. I mean, I don't know what exactly was that final straw with you, but
Mhm,
for me, it was illness, right?
mhm,
It was 3 years of not great,
mm.
it was just year after year. And the weirdest thing with this is back, okay, wait, it started when I was 40. I'm 53 now.
Okay.
And, with a child getting sick, my daughter had cancer at age 5.
Okay.
And then almost exactly 1 year later,
Mhm,
almost exactly, I was diagnosed with cancer.
mhm.
And then almost exactly 1 year after that, my husband coded in the hospital
Oh my
from
goodness.
bacterial pneumonia.
Okay.
And so 3 years in a row, and it was so weird. It was almost like I was terrified for
Yeah.
August, September to come along again,
Sure.
right? Because I was like, what's
Absolutely.
gonna come up this year? You
Mhm.
know? But after that 3rd year, I started to look at different things and started
Yeah.
to open
Yeah.
my eyes, right?
Yes. And that's what things like that will do. Now those were trying to tell you something. We can go into those here in a little bit once we talk about cancer and the different things, but I'll bet, that there was something that you were trying to tell yourself there. And that's what that was all about.
It's
All of you were
very
trying to tell
but
yourself.
at the time,
Uh-huh.
I was definitely in a more of a victim state. Why is this happening to me? Why is this
Absolutely.
happening to and I needed to go through that. But then,
Mhm.
I started to seek people who could
Yeah.
help me, right?
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
was like, I was born Catholic, and the Catholic religion just didn't help me at that time. It didn't
Mhm.
resonate with me.
Right.
So I sought out, she's actually a shaman.
Mhm.
And I still to this day feel that she was the one that kind of help
Yeah.
pluck me out of that victimhood state and
Mhm.
put me into a creator state. Then I
Yeah.
went back to college. I started learning feng shui and energy and right. So,
But
we,
do you see your life was here and now it's here?
yeah.
See,
And
it
look
takes
at me
something
now.
major. Usually, what I'm seeing is it takes a major thing like that to get us off of this track to this track, which is what we intended. It's just we were down here and we're comfortable and we're like, why not? Why move? Why do anything? And you were probably getting signals when you were on this one,
Yeah.
but you weren't. paying attention, you weren't listening, or like I was doing a little bit, but then I'd go back because that was my comfort spot,
Yeah.
so it could have been, but I'll bet you were getting indications. And then it was like, you got to go now. So that's where we had to have very severe messages.
I do really agree with that, Julia, because I do believe, like, how you were saying when you were little,
Hmm.
you really enjoyed helping your mom and you would
Hmm.
help take calls and everything back. So
Yeah.
I always had this like nurturing,
Hmm.
like let's help people, stay, in back in
Right.
university, they used to call me mama. And I'm like, geez, all I remember is partying, but I do remember them calling me mama, right? So there was that whole thing that was playing out our whole lives. It's
Yes.
there,
Hmm.
right?
Yes, absolutely. And like after that whole ended, there was something else that happened because that's all I ever knew was being a nurse. That was my identity. Remember, I said from age 2, I knew I was going to be a nurse,
Yeah.
and that was everything. And then when this happened, it was like, who am I now? My whole identity was gone. And someone I talked to that was a friend of my mother's, and she said, well, first of all, you need to know that you're a healer. And that's why you gravitated to the nursing, because that was your translation. When you came into this life, there were only like a couple of models at that point. If you wanted to be a healer, it was doctor and nurse. That were your only options at
Yes.
the time I came in. Now there's so many other options, but at that point, that was it. So it was like, that's why that attracted you. And so that's why you went down that. But it's like, that part never leaves you. And that's where we're carrying on. It's taking a different, it's maybe taking its more genuine route.
Yes. Yeah. A very deep, authentic
Mhm.
route that is not the way that I would have to say I'm not afraid of being who I am.
Yeah.
And maybe back then, like when you were going to nursing school, it's like it was a little too out there, to do these kinds of things. I don't know.
It wasn't even on the radar at
Right.
that point. Well, I guess my parents had been doing the hypnosis, but it was like way out. Yeah, it was. Well, I do remember having a dream about ETs when I was in nursing school. So that was right when ET was just coming out. So that gives
Yeah.
you an idea about, yeah. So
Yeah.
70s was just starting to break. That's when I was in nursing school.
Yeah.
See, it just wasn't out there,
Yeah.
so that was the world I was dealing with. You said something and it reminded me, oh shoot, he'll come back. Um,
Well, let's get into because in your book you do talk about um, humans and who we really are.
mhm.
I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yes. Yeah. This it's come through because of the work with my mother, and she was working, but also I get these pictures. This part of ourselves, it's overall arching knowledge, it knows everything. We like to call it the higher self, the oversoul, whatever you want to call it, because we like to give names to things. But it's all a part of us. And the more I grow, the more I become aware of this part. And it takes on different things. It's like at first we have to identify it. It's a thing, and but it's not really. It's a part of us, and it's who we really are. We are this all knowing. I mean, we could call it God. I mean, this actually, the picture they gave me, it actually does merge with what we know as God or source. So, in that respect, it is God. And that's where when we say, when you hear things like we are God, that's why that's a true statement, because this part is bridging us to the God source within us. So anyway, that's a piece of us. It comes in, and that's who we are in this life. We think we're just skin and bones in this body. This is our costume that we chose to wear. We designed. That's something I want everybody to understand. We designed the body that we would be in.
How? How,
Well, that
Julia?
that was part of the plan. Remember, we had a blueprint when we came in. It was like,
Okay.
okay, yeah,
I find that really interesting. So we have before, like, because I've heard this so many times
mhm,
that, we choose who our
yeah,
parents are.
mhm,
Like, I find that like such a big concept.
absolutely, it is. And sometimes it's like when you're trying to do it in linear physical terms. It's like, who's making all these plans? Where is all this happening and stuff
Yeah.
like that? But that's where we have to take it out of that and realize it's energy. It's a different, it's not that physical construct, you know, and we are so much greater. And this is what I'm saying. This is who we really are. We are so great and so big and powerful. And we maneuver these things and we're doing this all the time. But before we came in, I mean, we chose our birth dates, we chose our names, we chose our physical type. We did that by our parents. We may have had karmic connections, different things with the people around us, but it was also for the design. You know, we designed our bodies. I mean, look at people in the same family, and some they'll look different. You know, they come from the same parents. I know it's genes and everything in there, but it's like how is it so different? Well, because we had a design in there. I want this kind of a body to accomplish XYZ. You know, I have certain things I want to do in this life, or I have certain things I want to, you know, I feel like because I've got a stockier frame, I think I wanted to be earthly. I wanted to be grounding, that kind of a thing, rather than, I'll notice some people are very, you know, lithe. And so I think they're more airy, you know,
Oh,
that's just
I
the way they
never thought
design.
of that.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah. You just, and there's other things that come in there too, but that's what's coming. See, that's what I'm saying. I get things too as I'm talking. So it's just, this is what we do. Pay attention. Somebody needs this. Pay attention to what comes in as you're speaking. That is your higher self.
Ah.
You just come up, I mean, things come out, you're like, wow, that's really, where did that come from? That's your higher self speaking through you. And that's just more of you. That's who you really are. It's just more of you coming into you.
It's just this awareness. I
Mhm.
something that I didn't have when I was younger, or
Mm,
even like even 10 years ago. Like it's just something that I pick up on much more now. Like
mhm,
even I was thinking about this because I do a lot of walking in the forest with my dog.
mhm,
And one Thanksgiving weekend, I was walking with my son who was home for the weekend from
mhm.
university, and we stopped and I'm like, oh my gosh. And like he would have walked right by it. But I stopped. I'm like, look at these mushrooms. And on one of them looked like a cross, like the most perfect
Wow.
cross. And of course I stopped. I'm like, oh my gosh. I took a picture and I'm saying to him, right?
Mhm,
And I was like, this means something,
mhm.
right? But,
Yes.
of course, when you're of that age, you just kind of keep walking. I'm like, okay, mom, whatever. But
Exactly.
I think when we take note of different things, like you said, what comes out of our mouth authentically, what we notice around us, there's always a reason for it. And I say this all the time. And
Mhm.
some people probably, they call me all kinds of things, but I'm like, everything happens for a reason.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree. They call me all kinds of things too, so it's
You know what?
okay.
I accept that. There was a while there where, because I am definitely in the middle
Mhm,
of science and
mhm.
woo. I say woo because
Yes.
people all know what woo
Mhm.
means, right?
Yes, exactly.
Um, and I'm
And
in
woo
the
woo is
middle.
just an extension of woo. So, you know.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the middle. So I'm
Mhm,
into like the studies and the
yeah,
science and genetics and all that stuff. But I know out here in the woo, it's
mhm,
probably even more uh I would say important than the science, because the science can always be, how everyone's like, oh, you got to listen to the science. Oh, you got to listen to the science. But I'm like, but I can find a study to both
mhm.
support and negate every single thing that I'm talking
Yes,
about.
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And what's really cool though is like the work my mother, Dolores Cannon, what she was doing, what she was finding, and what was able to happen in these QHHT sessions. QHHT, for those that don't know, is quantum healing hypnosis technique. That's the technique that she created. And what she was doing with her clients and the healing that was happening, it's energy healing because we know that that happens. Now science is finding that that can be done. Oh my goodness. 30 years after what she's been doing already and then continuing to do. So that's what I find about science is it kind of comes in, it's supporting now. So now people are kind of giving her some credibility. It's like, oh, maybe she was really onto something. If that's what you need, okay, fine. Those in the woo that can believe without having to have all that supportive evidence, we've known it for many, many years. So
Yeah.
it's like that's what science brings. And that's
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
But see, Julia, I mean, it's the same thing with natural health. There's
Mhm.
so many scientific, very one-way trained
Yeah.
medical professionals who will completely say, no, doesn't work, doesn't work. But then years later, we
Mhm.
come to find that, yes, vitamin D is really important, but we've been saying that
Exactly.
all along in the natural health community, right?
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
I totally feel you, what you're saying. And, I'm just so happy that we're having this discussion. So let's get into how emotions affect our wellness.
Yes. Emotions, first of all, we have been sold a bill of goods that emotions are not okay.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not okay to experience them. It's not okay to be depressed. It's not okay to be angry. It's not okay to be sad. It's not okay, for the more negative emotions, it's like we want to be happy all the time.
Yep.
And so that's where, and not to go against, well, it kind of is. How do I go? The drugs thing. It's like, or the media and the social, whatever it is, it's trying to go, we need to dampen all of that. But let's not deal with that. Let's just have happy emotions. But I want you to know, remember, we designed everything. We came in with a reason. We came in with a purpose. We came in with a plan. One of the biggest plans that we come in to learn when we come to this earth plane is emotions, because we have such a huge variety of emotions, extreme emotions, and we can go from them like that. Go from happiness to anger, from sadness to exhilaration in a second. And so that's where we can learn. On the spirit side, where we're planning all of this, it's all theory. And we're like, oh, this is really cool. I want to learn, because we grow tremendously when we experience emotions. So that's why we want to come here. And it's like, okay, let's have these emotions. I want to come to the place and experience them. And on that side, like, oh yeah, what's the big deal? Love, anger, hate, jealousy. Oh, no big deal. They sound really cool, But let's come in here, we get the thick of it, and oh my gosh, how do we deal with this? And then it's like it's not okay. We need to just push it down, push it down, push it down. And that's not what the body is made for. The body is made to move these things through and release them. And so that's where the body is going to say someday. We just keep pushing it down, then it's going to have a say. It's going to erupt in some way. These emotions are blocked. We can call them blocked energy. It's whatever you want, but there's a lot of different terms, and that's where these different modalities are coming from. And it's basically it's emotions not being able to be expressed,
Let me
and so
ask.
they're pushed in.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this question. Just, I don't want to forget this. Do you think that, because in your book, I can't remember if I read about this in your book, that
Mhm.
addictions can really come about from suppressed emotions. Is that one of the things that you
I
talk
don't know
about?
if it's in mine, but absolutely, you want to look at addictions. It's usually what I have found. Alcohol, drugs, all of these different addictions. It's you're trying to suppress.
Yeah.
It's usually you're trying to suppress being able to hear. You're trying to suppress. You're feeling all the stuff. You're very sensitive to the higher self, to all of the guidance team, and you don't know what it is, and so you're trying to escape it. Like just cover me up with this so that I don't hear it, I don't see it, I don't feel it, because I don't know what this
Mute
is.
it.
Gary.
Mute it.
Yes, mute it
Yeah.
out. Exactly.
Oh, so
So
that's
usually,
interesting.
yeah, that's the biggest one. It's or there's something going on in the life. There's something that they're just not wanting to deal with, and so they just want to mute it all out. That's where it's like find out what the person is trying to escape from. Why? What is it? Because there's something that they're using this to dampen.
I find that really fascinating. And even so, I'm a 1970 baby.
Okay.
And, I grew up in the whole era of, don't cry, don't
Hmm.
cry, don't cry,
Exactly. Yep.
right?
Hmm.
And I have changed so much, even from when my children were little,
Hmm.
where I would catch myself saying, don't cry,
Yeah.
don't cry, stop doing that,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And meanwhile, now that my kids are older, if they're in a situation where they're really upset, I'm like, you got to
Yeah.
let it out, honey.
Let it out.
Let
Exactly.
it
You got
out.
to let it
Got
go
to let
through
it
you.
move through you.
Exactly. You have
Yeah.
to. It's a natural, these are natural things and they're wonderful indicators to tell us where we are. I call them barometers. They're telling us where we are with something. How we react is giving us an indication of where we stand with something, telling us ourselves that's feedback for us.
Yeah.
If we numb it all out, then what do we have to gauge anything by? See, that's one of it's like this Geiger counter, trying to where am I with this thing, that whole thing. So it's like you've got to, this is your own mechanism. Don't dampen it out and allow it to flow and allow it to work. If you have a severe reaction to something, a lot of anger, it really gets you. It's like, okay, why? What is it about
Yeah.
that that's really bothering me? Then you're looking at you because it's all about you. It's not the other person and the other thing. It's why am I having that reaction? What is it about this situation that is causing this reaction?
Yeah. And what do I need to learn from that? Right.
Yes,
Like if you have a real
absolutely.
visceral reaction to something,
Hmm.
and I always say that, like, I, and again, I've definitely learned this from speaking to experts like yourself, like these past few years, I find it almost mind blowing because, we would have a situation, people would have whatever situation, and you'd go, you did that, you did that, you did
Yeah,
that. Meanwhile,
mhm.
now I'll go, okay, where's my part in all of this?
Exactly.
Right. And,
Yeah.
I just think my husband's so damn lucky. That's all I can say. But seriously though, right? I'm
Mhm,
like, okay, well, you might have that reaction initially, but then when you can go back to
mhm.
yourself and go, okay, why was I triggered so much? There's something there.
Exactly, and that's what you look at. If there's a trigger, it's on you. That was for you to learn from. You created that whole situation so that you could show yourself something to learn from. So always look back at yourself.
I know you come from a medical background,
Mhm,
and I'm going to ask your opinion because you come from a medical background. Listen, I still do believe that some people need to go on those types of drugs like SSRIs because it's very severe, right? And maybe that our medical system can't really support them properly the way that they need the
mhm.
support, so they go on these, like, do you think that numbing can be dangerous?
Okay, I'm going to have to ask you because I've been out of medicine for quite a while now.
Okay, okay.
Can you remind me what SSRI is?
So there are antidepressants, like
Okay, okay.
antidepressants, or there's
Um,
also
mhm,
anti-anxiety.
mhm,
The different classes of drugs. And
sure.
I think that, you know, of course there's a place for them, but
Mhm.
our medical system nowadays hands them out like candy.
Exactly. And this is where we have to, what that's showing, okay, there's so many different parts here, is we give our power away and we give it to these experts, and
Yeah.
that's fine. They are learned people in their field, and this is what they know to do with what they've got. And that's fine. But at some point, it's up to you, each individual person, to take back their power, take the responsibility for what's going on. And I don't have a problem with the medications. It's like the medical industry has its place. I
Yes,
firmly
I'm with
believe
you.
in that. Completely believe in that. But at the same time, be looking at what are you trying to tell yourself? What is the message here? What are you needing to learn? What are you wanting to learn? And then that will help you move through this situation so that you're not needing to be on that all the time. I mean, it might be fine for a stopgap or to help you through something, but learn, get the message. There is a message there. What is it you're trying to tell yourself?
Yeah, to get you to the other side, right?
Yes.
To get you to the other side, because I know, you go through life circumstances and you
Mhm.
might have you know, when my daughter was sick, I could probably say I would have been like clinically depressed for
Mhm,
6 months at
mhm.
least. Like I didn't, you know, I could probably say that looking back in hindsight. I
Mhm.
pushed through, I did other things. I, you know, I did what I felt I needed to do to get through it, right? But
Right.
some people have a hard time with that, right?
You do. I feel like everybody does the best that they know how to do at that
Yeah.
point. They do the best that they can for themselves. And then it's just like, okay, so don't damn yourself, don't, criticize or anything like that. It's like you're doing the best you can with what you know at that point. So now, okay, now go back and it's like, what do I know now? And what can I learn from that experience? And what am I still trying to teach myself? If there's still something going on, then it's like, okay, what is it you want to know? Start
Yeah.
at any point. It's never too late.
No, I'm
Always.
with you.
Yeah,
I'm
just
with
what.
you. But you know, some people see I am a seeker. So if
Hmm.
if something doesn't suffice, I'm just going to
Hmm.
keep going,
Sure.
right? And I'll
Yeah.
keep going down that rabbit hole until I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, now I feel satisfied that
Yeah.
this is helping me
Right.
in whatever the situation is. But not everybody's like that, right? Like,
Right. And that's fine. But at some point, they might get like that. At some point, you might get tired of this system. Maybe it's not really working for you. And so then it's like, well, then what else is there? But sometimes it's like, no, this is fine. This is my world. That's fine.
yeah,
Those are probably people that aren't looking for anything else. I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm here to, there's more,
yeah,
And so if you're at that place where it's like, I feel like there's more to this, this can't be it, then you're probably in that place to shift your thought process.
yeah.
Mhm.
So do you believe that every single pain, illness, any of that that comes through is a message?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm dying to ask you this. I find like there's just so much here.
Mhm.
Maybe we can, okay. I have had, let's say, a pain in my right wrist.
Right. Well, let's start back at who we really are. And we came in with
Okay.
a plan. Okay.
Okay.
So that'll help it make more sense.
Okay.
We came in with this plan to go through this life and to accomplish certain things, right? And get certain things done. Everything else is experiences and what we want to learn and things like that. All right. And we have our guidance team. Now we know when we come in, part of the plan on being on Earth is that we will not remember. That's part of Game Board Earth. There's a veil of forgetfulness. This is part of the rules. You're going to come in, you're not going to remember. If you want to come and play on this game field, this is one of the things you're going to do. So we knew that coming in. We're not going to
Remember
remember.
what? Remember what? Like a
Remember
past
who we
life?
are. Remember who we are, where we came from, that we came in with a plan, all that stuff, that we had other lives, that we had anything. We're
Okay.
not going
Okay.
to remember the whole scheme, the bigger picture. Okay.
Okay.
But the biggest part is we're not going to remember who we are and why we're here. All right.
Got it.
And that's for us to find. That's the goal of the game, is to find out who we are, why we're here, what we're doing. Okay. So if you can kind of break it down, that helped me to make it a game. It's like, oh my goodness, that makes sense. So we come in, but we know that our guidance team is there and they're saying, we're here with you and we will help guide you along the way. But if we're not remembering, then they're going to find some other ways. I mean, they can talk right to us, which they do, but many, many people don't believe that they can hear anything. Like, no, I don't, no, I don't hear messages. I don't see anything. I don't get that. So they have to find other ways to communicate with us. Remember, they're our guidance team and they are here to help us along the way. This is an agreement we made before coming in. So when they can't get messages to us any other way, and they will do it many, many ways. I want you to pay attention. Okay, you're cross on the mushroom. That's a message,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's lots of ways that there's neon signs sometimes blinking like arrows and whatever, got go here, or sometimes people come up to you and say something and it's like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear that, or something comes up on the
Yeah.
TV, it's like, oh my gosh, that's what I've been thinking about and I needed to hear that. That's how they will communicate in lots, and I mean there's so many different ways. But let's say we're not getting any of those messages. it's not getting through that, oh my gosh, this is something I need to heed, then they're going to go to something that we will listen to, that we're with 24/7, 7 days a week, all the time. And
Our
that's our
body.
body. Right. So they're going to communicate through the body. The body is a wonderful messenger. So, and what gets your attention more than anything with the body?
Well, pain.
Pain, exactly. Pain. You will pay attention to pain. So
Yeah.
that's why, see, I can say every ache, pain is a message, because they're trying to get your attention about something. Where the pain is will give you an idea about what the message is. Okay. So you said
Yes, that's in your
pain
book.
exactly. Pain in the right wrist. Okay.
What does that mean? Tell me, Julia.
Yeah. Okay. So anything on the right side of the body means right now. Left side of the body means sometime in the past. It could even be another life, but sometime in the past. So it's not, but the right is right now. And usually just saying that to somebody, they go, oh, I know exactly what it is, because it's like, it's in a situation that's happening right now. The wrist, you have to look at, I mean, is this a situation? Are you having a pain in your right wrist? Or you
Yes,
just,
since
okay.
last October.
Okay. So tell me about the pain.
Tell you about it?
Mm-hmm.
It's preventing me from golfing. Not that
Okay.
I'm a big golfer, but it's really painful. I can't do a push-up anymore because it's
Okay.
that painful.
Okay.
I can't get an MRI because this is our healthcare system right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get in because it's not like an urgent situation.
Mm-hmm. So
It
describe the pain to me.
at times it can be really throbbing.
Okay.
And then at other times I'm like, oh, I can barely feel it.
Okay.
So it definitely comes and goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I do a lot of things, like I do red light therapy, I ice it, I get shockwave. So, I do a lot to try and mitigate the pain,
Sure,
obviously.
but they're not taking it away, are they? I mean,
Oh,
it's not gone because you're not getting to the message. See, and that's a big part of this. And this is what mainstream medicine does. They treat the symptoms.
yep.
And they make it feel better, but they don't ever get rid of the situation because it's a message. And as long as you haven't received the message and not understood it, it's going to keep coming. It's going to keep happening until you understand it. Once you understand it and you act on it, it can go away. That's where miraculous healing. It's just you got the message. Okay, so are certain activities, you said push-ups, you feel it a lot. Golfing,
yeah.
apparently you feel it. Okay, so
Golfing.
certain motions with your hand. Okay, but it's in your wrist. Point to me
And
where
you
it
know
is.
what?
What?
It's the hand that I hold my phone on.
Okay.
And a lot of my business relies on social media.
Okay. Okay. Now that's interesting that's coming. So it hurts when you hold the phone.
Yep.
Okay. Any other so is that like the main so certain hand motions? I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah. So it's, now that you're saying this to me, it's almost like the message, because I love this, right? The message that's coming through to me right now is I don't need to rely so much on social media.
Okay. See, now
But I
where do you think
haven't got the
this message
message
came
because,
from? Where do
damn
you
it,
think
I need it, Julia.
well, but there's more we can ask. So where do you think that message came from?
My higher self.
Mm-hmm. Because you're saying it, this just came in as we're saying it. That's your higher self speaking to you. And
Yeah.
that's what we do. See, this it's okay. So now, because you're listening, so now ask, because you just said, I need to do this. So ask, okay, so what do you want me to do? Ask your risk, ask, because you're communicating with it right now. So what do you want me to do? You already know what they want you to know.
Well, the thing that's just coming through is don't try so hard using social media.
Okay.
That's what's
So
coming.
what does that look like to not try so hard?
Just keep doing this.
Let them tell you.
When you say let them, is this anything that's coming through? Because
Anything that's coming through, because that's your higher self.
What's coming through is just keep doing what I'm doing, meaning recording. Because
Okay.
this is obviously my life's work, is to record podcasts and put it out. And that's why I said the social media piece. But what I'm getting is that you don't necessarily need the social media to do what you're doing right now, which is talking to people and bringing this to the world through your podcast.
There you go.
So there you go.
So get clarity, make sure it sounded very clear to me when you said it.
It's pretty clear.
Okay.
It's like what you're saying though, Julia. We ignore it.
Yeah, absolutely. But you see how natural that was?
It totally.
It was right there. And
Yeah.
all you had to do was just go, oh, I'm getting this. And that's how they're right there. Some people think they have to make a long distance call, or they have to make some great effort to get to this part of themselves. And no, it's right there all the time. That's why I have that visual. I mean, it's not as good in the book. It was harder to do it on there, but I have a drawing I do of who that part, what that part is, but it's right here, always with us. It's a part of us. So it's just a matter of us just being open to it and allowing it.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. But like you said, we tend to shove it aside and not listen.
Absolutely. And it's so simple. I'm a lot of people, I mean, it can't be that easy. No, we got to complicate it. But they have told me over and over, the universe is simple. Man, if you see something getting complicated, that's man. That's ego coming in.
When you say they, are you referring to our higher self? Okay. And do you believe that we all have guides?
Yes.
You do.
We come in with absolutely at least one that's assigned to us our entire life. And then we may have others that come in and out as we go through changes, as we do things, just different areas of expertise. Maybe if our life changes and we need something different, we'll have guidance through that. Or we go through different things, we might need a little more guidance through that. But at least one, always. You are never alone. And then we also have that broader higher self part of ourselves. We are never alone. I mean, that's what I mean by who we really are. We think I'm just me here. No, not at all. You have a huge entourage.
Do you believe your mom is with you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
My mother and my father.
Yeah. Did your father pass before your mom?
Yes. Yeah. And I've had many, like I've gotten readings and they always pick up on him. And then my mother, I can hear her here. So it's just.
Oh, see, I'm going to get tears in my eyes because it's very powerful. So I think that this is definitely fitting for me to tell a quick little story because I think you'll appreciate it. We brought my daughter off to university and she has a very unique middle name. We named her Dorinka after my aunt who passed, who helped raise me. And she was a very big part of my life. And I feel like since she passed, she's always kind of around. So when we brought my daughter to university, there's this little thing that the students all graffiti and they'll get student council will put messages on this graffiti thing. And I said, stand here. Let's get a picture of you here. And she goes and stands there, and right in the middle was Dorinka. Right? And I was like, this is my aunt saying she's gonna be okay. Because what are the chances that the name Dorinka would be there?
Yeah. But see, that's exactly what you do. It's like there are messages everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're always communicating. And that's what when I can hear them now, but before I realized, and like I was saying, everybody can hear them. It's just whether you will acknowledge that you can hear them, just like you were hearing them. And, but way they say that it was so funny because they're saying we're always communicating. And then they'll say it like, constantly, we are constantly communicating. I don't know why that tone, but they're constantly communicating.
So do you hear these messages? Do you see them? Do you get them through different ways? Like, is everyone different in how they receive them?
Everyone is different. All of the above to your first question, but everyone is different. And that's why I feel like some people they discount what is happening because it doesn't look like what's happening with somebody else. It's like, well, I don't see things, I don't hear things, so that must mean I don't get messages. But my firm belief is everyone. I mean, 100%. And there was a time back before when I would say 50%, but now I believe 100% everybody can get messages. It's whether or not you will. But let's look at all the different ways there are to receive information. When you look at the physical plane, how many different ways are there to get it? Some people still like newspapers. Some people like radio, television. Now there's the internet and all the different ways on the internet. I mean, and then we have people, face-to-face conversations, telephones. I mean, all the different ways we can get information. It's no different in that plane, in that energetic world, and probably more so. So many different ways of getting information. So it's what way is right for you. Some people hear, some people see, some people feel, some people just know. Knowing is a gift. It's one of the ways. And some people's like, oh, that can't be anything. No, that's a huge one. When you just know, that you know, but you don't know how you know. That's a
Mhm.
biggie. It's
Yeah.
whatever way works for you.
And there's a lot of books out there about how to tap into your intuition and all that stuff, because people want to know. People
Absolutely.
want to know. And you get a lot of people who will, scoff at these signs and go, it's coincidence. But personally, I feel when you look at these signs, it makes life more
Mhm.
enriched,
Absolutely.
right? Like
That's when you know.
when I ask for a
Yeah.
feather on my walk and there is a feather
Yeah.
and it's there, and then
Mhm.
I'll go and I'll walk for like 2 or 3 days, I won't see a feather, but I asked for a feather and it's
Right.
there. To me,
Mhm.
that's not coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. It's not coincidence. In fact, I don't believe in coincidence.
I'm with you.
Everything has a meaning. You look for, that's we call synchronicities, but a coincidence would be something by happenstance. And no, everything has a meaning. There's a message or something. Now,
Yeah.
some people take that to the extreme. Oh, what does this mean? What does this mean? Well, that's where just if that's the stance you want to take, fine, go for it. But just if you want to know more about who you really are, what this world is really about, and why you're here, be open, be
Yeah.
open minded, be open to receive and allow.
So the thing I found really cool is that you've got some pretty specific examples in your book.
Mhm.
Um, let's go through some really common things. Like,
Oh,
and this is the one I'll start with, the one that I thought was really interesting, is that you say accidents are not accidents.
right.
So can you just dig into that one for me? I'd
That
love
kind of
to.
goes along with your coincidences and how, it's like everything is a message. Now, depends on, what kind of an accident is, but let's say a car accident. I love car accidents because a vehicle is another vehicle. Our bodies are vehicles.
Yeah.
Your car is a vehicle. So see, it's like your car is taking on the role of your body at that point. So you would look at it the same way as you would your body. So it's like, okay, a flat tire be like something happening to your foot or your leg, right? It's like you can't move, can you? When you have a flat tire, you're stuck. What does that tell you? What would the message be from a flat tire?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot
I
here.
am. Well, I mean, what happens when you get a flat tire?
Well, you can't move. You can't do
Exactly. So
anything.
so what might the message be?
There's something that is preventing you from
Yeah.
doing what
You're
you
not
want to
going.
do or
It's not
going.
even, you're just not moving. You're stuck.
Yeah.
It's trying to tell you you're stuck. The right or the left side will tell you if it's something from
Yeah.
now, or if it's something from the past that's holding you back from moving forward. You're not moving, period. And that's where many of our messages are about moving forward. Maybe we're on the wrong path. We're going down the wrong way. We need to go another way or something, or we're not moving at all. We're stuck. And it's like, hey, you came here with something to do. Let's get going. You have things to do. And remember, this is our guidance team. They have a plan, they have a blueprint they've got to help you follow. And so that's where a lot of that is just trying to get you moving again. So a flat tire could be saying, and I bet you if you're getting that, you might be also getting some physical symptoms of with the legs, because our hips, legs, knees, anything to do with the legs, feet, ankles, that have something to do with your path, walking on your path. So you might be seeing things that, excuse me, I've got a head cold now, but you
That's
might be
okay.
seeing things that are preventing you from or hindering your great movement forward. And that's
Okay.
trying to tell you you've got stuff going on. There's something you need to adjust here.
Okay. So hips, legs, feet,
Mhm.
there's something hindering or
Mhm.
preventing. I guess if it's left hip, there's something from your past.
Mhm. Yeah, it could be a message. Sometimes what that is old programming,
Yeah.
some things that were said, and it's still bothering you. It's what's affecting how you move forward, because it's like old programming. It's like, well, they told me I'd never make it. That kind of something like that. Something from the past is still affecting you. Now it might be something that's going on in your situation. If it's on the right side, it's something in your situation right now that's affecting how you feel like you can move forward.
Okay. So how do you clear it then? Like, let's say if it
What
is
did you just
something
do? What did you just do?
just now, I
When you
to
with your wrist.
identify. So
Mhm.
for example, I'll just throw this one out there. So let's just say there was something from my past that was hindering me from doing what I'm doing today.
Mhm.
So I went back to college when I was 46,
Okay.
and I heard from a few people like, what? You've already got a university degree. What are you doing going back to school now? You're 46 years old. But Well, that's kind of crazy. And so if I allowed that to
Mhm.
really kind of
Mhm.
hold me back,
Yeah.
then
You
it could
probably would
affect
have
my hips.
you probably would have started having something going on in the left legs, hips, somewhere. You probably would have had aches, pain, something trying to indicate, yeah, you're allowing this to affect you, to
Oh,
hold you back.
interesting.
Mhm.
So once you identify it,
Mhm.
and maybe what, like journal a little, like help to kind of clear
However
that?
gets you to get the message. What you did a while ago, that was all you have use it. What are you trying to tell me? Okay. What do you want me to know? That's giving you more information around it. What do you want me to do? See, then that gives your movement forward. How do you
Ah,
act on it? What do you want me to do?
what do
So,
you want me to do? That's huge. That last
and
piece, right?
yeah, then you're getting all that guidance. Then that's your way forward. See, you've got to act on it. Once you act on it, and that's your doing. And sometimes the knowing, what do you want me to know? Sometimes that does it. But just to be crystal clear that we get the action is, what do you want me to do? And then that carries it
Very
forward.
powerful.
Mhm.
Very powerful. And it's interesting when you mentioned the car accident a while back, my son's car was broken into, vandalism, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I actually said, okay, that's like an assault,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yep.
like an assault to you personally. And of course, like young people, Julia, they just kind of sometimes look and roll their eyes when I speak, which is fine. But, like you kind of have to look at what's going on in your life. I said
Agreed.
that.
Yes. Yes. So that's where you would look at what was going on in his life. Was there something, or in his thought processes? Because something was happening where this was reflecting that to him, to show him this
Yeah,
is going on.
I
Mhm.
do believe that.
Mhm.
Okay, let's because there's so much autoimmune disease
Mhm.
nowadays.
Yes.
So what in your book do you talk about autoimmune diseases?
I believe I do.
Okay.
Maybe I don't, because after the books, I do in my course. I did an online course for this,
Okay.
and I have a whole video that I did because I had that, and so I do my own personal story and what it entailed. Because after the book, I had people coming up to me and asking me, it was so funny because remember I say you're going to get your messages right, and I was dealing with this, and I had someone identified. Okay, you have this, this autoimmune. It was leaky gut, and it's going forward and stuff, and I was like, okay. And I was dealing with a great doctor, and we're dealing with the symptoms, right? We're taking care of
Yeah.
all the symptoms. I'm improving things like that. And so I saw some improvement, but I knew that there's more to it. So, excuse me. So I'm proceeding and doing all the right things that they're telling me to do. And this is an alternative medicine
Mm-hmm.
person. And so we're doing all these wonderful things. Um, but in the classes that I'm doing, I'm helping my mother with the QHHT classes. At this point, there's a point in the class whenever we're talking about all of this. And this person came up to me afterwards. She's like, Julia, I have something going on and I don't understand what it's about. Can you help me? I didn't want to talk about it in front of everybody, but I have leaky gut. And I'm like, I'm trying to understand. I'm like, okay, great. And I'm like, knowing I have it. Okay, see
Yeah.
your reflectors. This is how we
Yes.
get messages to ourselves. Okay. Because I wasn't going, I mean, I knew what it was and I knew there's more to it, but I was like pushing it off. I'll deal with it later. Here's the universe going, no, you'll deal with it now. Bring this person to me. So I had to work through it with her to help her get her message. And by doing that, I got my own message. Okay. I got
Oh,
to the
cool.
bottom of it. I'm like, oh wow. And it's a tough one. And I'll go into what it is. But then okay, so it's like, wow, that's really interesting. Okay. This is where, heal or heal thyself. I'm like, okay, that's good to know. And I'll work on that later.
Yeah.
Um, we go into another class. I mean, this is maybe a few months later. Okay. The very same thing happens, identical. It's another person, everything comes to me, Julia, I've got a situation. I didn't want to mention it from everybody else, but I've got leaky gut. What's that? I'm like, are
Ah,
you kidding me? I'm like,
yeah.
okay, I get it. You're going to keep sending people to me until I deal with this,
Yeah.
until I get to the bottom of it. Okay. So when I was helping them, you look at what it is, because see how it's translating in the body or what it does. That's a lot of your message. And when we look at these autoimmune diseases, what are they doing? What's happening in them? I'm gonna put you on the spot again. I love doing this.
Well, oh. See, I zoned out for a second there.
Mm,
Um,
okay.
so an autoimmune disease is an attack within your own immune system.
Your
Yeah.
body is attacking itself,
It's
essentially.
attacking itself.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So it's like, why on earth would that happen? And it's like, when we get to the bottom of that, why would something attack something? I mean, why would that even happen? And we kept going down deeper and deeper. And like I was saying, I was asking this person, I just kept going deeper. And when we got to the bottom of it, it came down to a self-hate.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm getting good at this,
Self-attack.
Julia.
Yes, very good. In fact, it even used the word loathing. I mean, it was like, whoa. And that when I heard that, it was like, whoa, my gosh, that's
Self-hate.
self-hate.
Oh
And
my
I'm like, oh my
gosh.
gosh, I'm here in this world of love and beautiful things. And what? And when I got to the bottom of my situation, remember that situation I told you where the universe said, we will pluck you out of here? That
Yes.
horrible thing that happened, I was still punishing myself for that horrible thing that happened.
Oh.
And that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, I had already gone through it. I came through it beautifully, but I was still punishing me. So that's when I'm like, okay, enough. We did it. This is, look what we learned, all this stuff. So I had to start working with it that way. And then I got down, okay, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to do? And it was a matter of loving myself. So then I just had to just tell myself every day, many times a day, I love you, I love you. And I'd go in the parts, I love you, feet, I love you, knees, because my
Oh.
knees were really manifesting it. Now, another thing about this was the timing. And I hadn't thought about that. I didn't know at that point my mother was about to pass. And this was all
Oh.
happening within months before my mother passed. So, probably on that level, I was aware of that. Some people have said, I was probably nervous, whatever, anticipating the movement forward and not knowing what to do and stuff. So it's like that was maybe holding back in what was going to happen there. Because, I mean, that was, and I appreciate what you said in the beginning. I'm going to get very personal here. About paving my own way, because when she passed, I mean, I was her sidekick. I mean, we were together 24/7 doing her work, and this was developing over here on the side. The Soul Speak was developing and everything, but I was her, we were together. And when she passed, one, I lost my other part, I had an identity crisis, really. And people, they start saying, well, you have to be your mother. You're going to step into her shoes, right? And you're going to be your mother. And I'm like, I can't be my mother. I don't know how to be her. That she was her. I mean,
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
all I know is me. But I was struggling for a while trying to figure out who I was in that whole thing. So I really appreciate you acknowledging that, I'm still working on that. I mean, I have a much better idea of who I am within this whole scenario now. And my mother and I still work together.
Yeah, I see, you know what? I see the way that I saw you is that
Mhm,
you're you obviously are very connected with your mom, and
mhm,
I know that you've worked very, very closely with her, and perhaps she was more of the guidance to help you figure out your way, because I see your work differently from your
mhm.
mom's work. So that's why I do feel that you should have credit for your own work. But that connection is obviously going to be there forever, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So,
Right. So anyway, so through that loving, I'll finish that, so I
yeah.
started loving, I love you knees, I love you hips, I love you heart, I love you. And I would go into, I love your feet, because when I do these classes and I do these, I'm standing the entire day. And it's like, thank you for supporting me. And I love what you do for me and all the help you do. And thank you, heart, for beating and keeping this body going. Thank you, lungs, for, appreciating every single part of me. And what happened was amazing. When we show our body appreciation, remember, these bodies are beautiful messengers, and once they're acknowledged, they're just relaying messages for us. But once we are understanding the message, and once we acknowledge, I mean, it shifted so fast. That alternative medicine doctor I was going to, I went back to him. He's like, oh my gosh, I've never seen recovery like this. Your tests were off the charts, out of balance, and now they're all normal within a few months. And they're like, this doesn't happen. Well, I didn't tell him what else I was doing. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, but that's what will happen. The body responds immediately.
So, a couple of things there. One is I do believe that everybody has a different method by which they can,
Mhm,
do the healing. For you,
mhm,
it was affirmations,
mhm.
right? Like,
Well, it
you're
was talking to my body. It
affirming,
was,
to,
yeah, I
you
had
know,
to understand. And then I
right.
think I had to have that love and appreciation for my body. So that's just where, I don't know if it was affirmations. I was just loving my body.
Okay. Yeah. And for
Yeah.
me, it's more I'm a writer. I'm an
Mhm,
English literature graduate, so for me writing is always my vehicle. Let's just say vehicle for healing. And
yeah.
I would say so I think everybody's got a different way
Mhm,
of finding their vehicle to heal, but I also love that you mentioned you're still working with somebody. This isn't, you know what I mean? Like you were working with
mhm,
a functional
mhm.
practitioner, alternative
Yeah.
medicine,
Mhm.
whatever resonates,
Yes.
whatever's working,
Yes.
right? And then it's almost like, because I always say this, body, mind, spirit, soul. Like you're kind of connecting all the dots.
Exactly. And that's why I say, you use their tools, use
Yeah.
your resources. And that, like, that was helping, giving me information. It was showing me, because whenever I would ask, I'm like, what's going on? Like, my knees were just severely hurting. That's what took me there. I'm like, why is my gosh, what's going on with my knees? And every time I asked, and they just say out of balance, out of balance. I'm like, well, I thought, well, my life is out of balance. All I was doing was working. And I was like I said, my mother was more and more dependent on me. I was just 24/7 with her. And I thought, well, maybe that's it. Whenever I went to the doctor, when I got to that doctor and he did the test, that's what he said. The first thing is like, oh my gosh, your system is all out of balance. I'm like, okay, there we go. So it was showing everything was out of balance. My life was out of balance. See, all of that was reflecting my life.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that's where, yeah. So that is great to help you get more information, to help you understand. Just like I was saying earlier about your wrist, it's like, describe it to me. You look at, what does that part do? How does the pain feel? See, that's giving you more information and clues as to the message. And also that's helping you tap into, it's either them or your body. You can say, what are you trying to tell me, wrist? You can talk to the body.
You know,
It's whatever way works for you.
and just from this phone call, like this recording, I got a
Mhm.
whole bunch of answers just sitting here talking to
Wonderful.
you. And I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we can't leave the discussion without mentioning two more things because people are going to want to know, like briefly touch on them, cancer and heart disease.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Let's start with heart disease.
Okay.
Okay. The heart. I mean, I think we already got this because what's the major symbol for Valentine's Day for love? It's the heart, and that's the heart is the seat of the emotions. Yeah, it's pumping the blood and everything. I mean, that's the flow, but so that's the blood. All right, so that's why we want to make the differentiation. The heart, though, is the seat of emotions. That's our love department. So anything going on with the heart means there's something going on in the relationships, the love department. There's something happening there. So that's my immediately where I'm looking and to
Totally.
ask questions. Okay.
Totally.
It's like there's something happening in that department in your life. All
Yeah.
right. So then we just go deeper.
Yeah.
Cancer, excuse me. Cancer is anger,
Oh,
suppressed anger. It's been pushed, it's anger that's been pushed down, pushed down, pushed down,
wow.
pushed down, and not released and not acknowledged. And it's finally, it's been churning and churning and churning until it finally shows up as cancer. It's probably had other signs and symptoms before that, as irritations or whatever, inflammations, things, but it's got to have its say. This is emotion that cannot be suppressed any longer. It has to come out. And that's when people are like, oh my gosh, the thing they're like, I'm not angry. I'm not an angry person. But that's one of the symptoms is that, remember, we push it down. We don't want to acknowledge the anger. So it's pushed down. It's suppressed anger. Now, somebody would say, why do children get
I was
anger?
just going to talk to you about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How on earth can a child be so angry?
Yeah.
What is going on there? Well, we have to look at children are not child souls. Remember, we are souls housed in a body. We are big grown up souls. Every one of us are. Children are big grown up souls when they come in. Some of these new souls coming in, they're coming in to raise the vibration of the planet. And so they have a purpose for being here. And they come from other places, much higher vibration, much lighter, much less violent than Earth. And they volunteered to help, but a lot of them don't want to be here and they might be angry about the situation. So I have a little bit of evidence for that to support that, but that's makes sense. It's like there are other factors going in. Now, the fact that if if you have a successive thing, you shared some stuff with me before we started the show, so I don't want to share that if it's not, um, if we don't want it out there. So, but I would see if there's other people. See, that's telling me there was something. There's a lot of anger happening in there.
Mm.
And then the final one was, I'm trying to remember what you said the final one was, but it sounded like a lot of fear. So there's a lot of fear, but you have
Fear.
to, yeah, there's a lot of, when you have lung issues, lungs go back to fear. And so that's where you want to look at that. It's like there's something fearful happening in the life. And if something's a chronic lung issue, then something happened back somewhere that made it afraid, the person afraid to do something. And so it's clouded the whole thing, the journey and what they want to do. So that's where you have to look back. It's like, when did this start? What created this? Something happened back there. And then when you have like successive cancers, especially if other people in the household are having the same issue, there's anger. There's a lot of emotions not being expressed.
Okay. My daughter at 5, me at 41. My father had colon cancer and my mom had blood cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay.
So, but thankfully, both my parents are still alive.
Mhm.
But I can honestly say, there's a lot, and I've done shows on this, on
Mhm.
a lot of generational trauma, a lot of fear.
Well, I could see yeah, but it's learned. It's not. I see what you're saying. Let's not say it's genetic. I thought you were going to go genetic, and it's like
No,
let's not
no, generational. Like there's
generation.
been a lot of fear, a
Mhm.
lot, like, you know,
Yeah,
my
never.
father,
Yeah.
he's now 86.
Uh-huh.
His mother died at childbirth, giving birth to him.
Okay.
Right. So, you know, he had to like, you know,
Mhm.
he tells me stories that just give me goosebumps where he was going to an aunt that was a neighbor to nurse from her because he was starving.
Aw.
And these stories, I'm like, so
Mhm.
there's a lot of, you know, like a lot of
Mhm.
bad stuff from the
Yeah.
past, right?
Absolutely. I mean, he could have even had guilt, when
Oh,
there's
don't even
probably
go
some.
there. His older siblings, like they, you know, they talk about this. Kids can be cruel. You know
Mhm.
how it is. Like you killed our mother, and you know, like this is
Exactly.
right. It's
Mhm.
so it's like in deep within. And my
Exactly, and that's
father's,
and his was colon cancer. See, he was pushing it down. Then that's our gut is where we hold many, many emotions, and that's we just stuff them in. We don't let them move through, and that's the symbology. There is they're held in the gut,
yeah.
and that's why it was then then it
And
became anger.
he's
It just kept
he's good
festering.
now though, but he has arthritis. So, you know, there's it's like it's just so fascinating
Mhm.
because I do feel what you're doing, the work that you're doing is something that could prove to be very powerful for anybody in the world to
Absolutely.
utilize.
Yes. Yeah, anyone and everyone can get messages, can understand them. That's what I want people to understand because you made a comment a while ago about all the information that was coming in, all the answers you were getting. And that's what I want people to understand is you have all your answers. All the answers lie within. How many times have we heard that? And that's you don't have to go outside of yourself to get the answers. You just need to understand how they are delivered and how they come and then it's allowing it's just allowing and receiving,
Yeah.
acknowledging, and then acting on them.
Beautiful. It's 1:11 now that we've been
Perfect.
recording. We've been recording for 1 hour and 11 minutes, now just over.
Okay.
I think it's a perfect time to close, and I would love for you to tell everybody how and where they can find you, find your book,
Yeah.
your website, all of that.
Okay. My website is juliacannon.com. You can find my book at Ozark Mountain Publishing. So it's ozarkmt.com or on Amazon. Soul Speak the Language of Your Body. And I have an online course of the same name, and that's at juliacannon.com. Also, I have, oh goodness, Julia Cannon Soul Speak on Facebook and Julia Cannon Official on Instagram. And I think TikTok. I don't know all the accounts. I'm out there.
Yeah,
So,
she's out there. That's how I found her. So
and
there you go.
YouTube. So,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. This has been such a beautiful
Oh,
conversation. I really enjoyed it, Julia.
thank you, Sandy. I have too. Thank you so much. I've loved it.
Okay. I hit stop on the audio.